Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Nature Story Hour. Today, I'm going to be pre-recording this because I am actually not at work today, but I still wanted you guys to have Nature Story Hour. Nature Story Hour is every first and third Thursday of the month at 10 o'clock. As of late, we've been doing them Facebook Live because we still want to do them, but we don't want to meet if anybody is sick. So we'll continue to do them Facebook Live until hopefully this summer or fall we'll be able to get back together and read books together. So today we are going to be talking about migration because right now there's a lot of birds that are migrating into Iowa. So we're going to talk a little bit about migration. However, birds aren't the only animals that migrate, and we are going to read a book, How Far Home? Animal Migrations by Monica Davies and illustrated by Romina Marti. Every year, thousands of animals go on a journey. It is often a trek of many miles. This trip is unique for every species. Some fly, some climb, many swim a great distance. But where are they all going? Season to season, weather changes. In spring, rain falls, plants grow, but in winter, the sun sinks lower, the air turns colder. When the seasons change, many animals travel to a warmer winter home to survive. This journey is called migration. Let's meet a few travelers. Some migrations are very short. Many snakes live in Shawnee Forest in Illinois. In the summer, these reptiles crowd a wet swamp. But every winter, they slither off, crossing a road to their winter home. The dry cliffs there keep them warm. So over here we can see how far they migrate, and they migrate 10 feet. Each year, Christmas Island near Australia hosts a giant migration. This island is home to red crabs. When the rain begins, the crabs start to move. They crawl from the forest to the sea. All of them travel at the same time. When they reach the water, the crabs lay their eggs. This is where their babies are born. So you can see here they migrate about 4 miles. Bighorn sheep roam high in the Rocky Mountains. They live here in the summer, but when it grows cold, plants up high start to die. The sheep must move homes. They begin a steep climb down. Below, they can find plants to chew. This is how they live through the winter. And they migrate about 25 miles. Some migration cover miles and miles. Honk! Probably hearing that outside now. You may have seen or heard a Canada goose. These feathered friends migrate every winter. They soar south in flocks in search of warmer weather. In one day, they can travel up to 1,500 miles. That's the distance from New York City to Austin, Texas. So 1,500 miles. It's not only birds that fly south in the winter. Some insects do too. Every fall, monarch butterflies head south because they can't survive cold winters. Some think 1 billion monarchs land in Mexico every winter. There they mate. They return north in the summer to lay eggs and find food. Do you know how many miles that is? 3,000. They travel over 3,000 miles to Mexico. Even fish change homes. King salmon are born in rivers. In time, they swim to the ocean, but they return home to have babies. To go back, the salmon will swim 2,000 miles, and they must swim upstream. 2,000 miles. Small birds can travel very long distances. The rufous hummingbird has a nectar diet. They need fresh flowers to live. In the winter, they head to sunny spots in Mexico. There, they can find flowers to bloom. So they travel up to 4,000 miles. Now, we don't have rufous hummingbirds here in Iowa, but we do have ruby-throated, and they too feed on nectar, so they have to migrate as well to find food. The Arctic tern may be small, but this seabird has the world's longest migration. In summer, these birds breed near the Arctic Circle. When they get to Antarctica, it's summer there too. Their S-shaped route to Antarctica and back covers 59,650 miles. Migration journeys will always be one of nature's wonders. So in this book, they talked a little bit about why animals migrate. Maybe because they have to find a warmer place. Maybe because there's shelter on one side of the road. Or maybe it's because their food source isn't available. So animals move or migrate for a reason. Now, right now in March, we are having a spring migration of birds. Other birds migrate too, like salamanders and snakes from their hibernaculums in the spring. But we're just going to focus on birds for right now. Now, because there is a large migration going on, I wanted to talk about all the different birds that are migrating in. Undoubtedly, you've probably heard Canada geese out honking and flying over in their V shape, along with other types of geese as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about those birds, and the activity I included for this story hour is actually a calendar. And it's a March migration calendar, and each day it has a different bird that should be showing back up into the area about this time. Of course, every year varies because sometimes winters are colder, longer, sometimes we're warm really early in February, and so these aren't exact dates when these birds will show back up, but it's approximate dates when they'll be back into Iowa. So you can look at these different birds. There's lots of different little birds. And then when you want to go out and explore and look for birds, take your binoculars and see if you can find any of these migratory birds. Now we're going to talk about a few of the birds on this list. The first one I wanted to talk about is the trumpeter swan. So just the other day, I saw a flock of trumpeter swans flying over me on my drive to work. And they fly pretty low to the ground, and they fly in a V shape like a lot of other waterfowl will do. Now, when I use the word waterfowl, that means birds that live in the water, waterfowl. So they are our largest waterfowl, and they migrate. Of course, they leave as the water freezes up, and then they come back in the spring, and they're coming back now. So you should be able to see some of these trumpeter swans flying over, and they're large white birds, so they're pretty hard to miss. Another bird we're going to talk about is this broad-winged hawk. So some hawk species migrate, and so this is one that's really fun when it migrates, because what they do is they will migrate in large groups. Now, to identify a broad-winged hawk, hawks can be quite hard, but a couple things that are pretty distinctive about a broad-winged hawk is that their wings are pretty broad compared to their bodies. So they got pretty thick wings, and their wings come to a point. Also, you'll see that they have very wide tail bands, white and black tail bands. So we can think that we can identify it by those identification factors. So like I said, they get in groups of thousands, and they make these circling migration kind of groups, I would say, call them, and we have a name for them called kettles or boils, and there's literally thousands of them, so many that you cannot count. And then they're migrating back up from warmer areas down south. The next bird we're going to talk about is the belted kingfisher. I love hearing this bird in the spring. Lots of times we see it along our riverways because they do hunt fish and frogs and things like that. You can identify it because it kind of has this bluish gray back and then this white neck stripe. Now, they actually migrate up from Mexico and Central America. And because they're water birds, they follow along the shorelines of lakes and the rivers and the coastlines because they still need to get their food as they migrate north. Here's another early spring bird we hear in March migrating into Iowa. The white belly, dark brown back, and then two black neck or chest strap bands is a good identification for this bird, and it is a killdeer. Now, killdeer, we've already heard them back and are singing. They come up from Mexico and they hang out on the water's edge. So if you want to go out and find these birds and see if they're back in your area, head down to a wetland or to the river's edge, and you can listen to them also making their killdeer kind of sound and see if you can find this migratory bird back. Here's another one that's a pretty good sign that spring is just around the corner. This bird is all black and it has a red wing. If you can guess, it's a red-winged blackbird. Now, the females of this bird are brown and black and dark brown and look very different than the males, but that's so they can blend in or camouflage with their nests. Now, red-winged blackbirds come back in large groups, and the males, this guy here, come back before the females to scout out their area and be able to fight other males for territory and for mates. Now, red-winged blackbirds don't stick around here in the wintertime. However, they just fly down to the southern United States. So they don't fly very far. You'll notice that some birds, like the Arctic tern and the brook, fly a long ways, but this guy, he just flies down to the southern United States. Now, red-winged blackbirds that live in the southern United States stay in the southern United States. They don't actually migrate. So where an animal lives dictates where they migrate as well. All right, the last one we're going to talk about is this bird, and it's a beautiful purple colored bird called the purple martin. Now, they are long migrators that fly from the Amazon basin in South America up to the United States. They only fly in the daytime, which some birds actually fly at night, and they send, something interesting they do is they send the oldest bird out ahead of the rest of them, and that is called the scout bird. And the scout bird will fly back to the location that he or she nested in the year before, scout it out, and make sure it's safe for them to return. So, like I said, you have our calendar to go out and see what kind of birds are migrating through right now. And I hope that you find lots of different birds, and you can write them down on this Facebook post. We'd like to know what birds you're seeing migrate through. And we hope that our weather is nice this spring and that you're out and about on our trails and that our paths cross soon.